Hi everyone, welcome to DOdaily Thursday Thoughts. It's Des here, as ever, at this point in the week, ready to answer your questions, hopefully encourage some interaction, and just get a few things as what DOdaily is off my chest. Process what's gone, look forward to what's coming up, and also pass on some information at the same time. As ever, it'll be looking at last week's throwback, getting into the questions that have come in this week that people want answering, and then picking one of those out to use as this week's throwback to try and encourage that interaction I mentioned. Of course, if you do want to get involved, please comment throughout this live stream. If you're watching afterwards, add your comments, anything you want to add to the points raised, anything I say, if you want to question it or you agree with it, I'm always welcome to that constructive criticism. The links across the bottom of the page are going across for the social media. Do get in touch in any way whatsoever. And of course, on any of the videos throughout the week, if you've got a question to ask for next week, please post that up and I'll be looking to get stuck into those then. As ever on a Thursday, I always start by letting you know how I am. Yesterday, I spoke a lot, as I tend to do on a Wednesday, about checking in, evaluating where we are, and just having a little bit more time to think how the week's going, feeling really, really, really positive again. Real tricky few weeks in terms of trying to fit everything in. Tricky few months, tricky year in all honesty, but it all sort of built up and just started affecting me a little bit. I'm not going to go too much into that because one of the questions kind of touches on that, but this week I've been determined to get back to my routines, get DOdaily out at the right time. Of course, it's one of those things that whilst I like doing it, it's almost something I can do at any time, but I don't want to look at it that way. I want to get it out in time. But the biggest thing in everything is the amount of activity I've got out and done. Just finished another running session. That's 3 days in a row. Whilst I'm not pushing too hard and doing too much too soon, trying not to anyway, I've managed to do some form of exercise every day this week. And of course, I use my daily motivations to encourage myself to do that, to build my sort of lifestyle and my personal development around that, and try to encourage people here. Not in a preachy kind of way, just trying to help people understand that we can find little ways to be that little bit better. It's about taking advice, listening to others. I do a lot of that. So whilst I'm trying to pass on information here, I'm trying to do it in a honest and realistic way, try to be relatable as much as I can. Hopefully people understand that and can see where I'm coming from. Just got this eagerness these days to do what I do. I was just talking about this at the coaching session about why I want to encourage running rather than just be somebody who goes along and takes part. And this has almost evolved into what I do here. It's a lot more than running and activity. Of course, I look at the mental health side of things and how we can improve in that sense as well. I've already touched on that a little bit and I'll touch on it a lot more within those questions, but I'm just feeling so much better for the activity. Always talk about this direct link. Got some endorphins floating around now, feeling really sort of good. Some of the negative stuff that was bringing me down has kind of been forgotten about because it's all about looking forward, working to my challenges. Of course, I've still got busy work type stuff to do. All of that keeps me going, keeps me sane throughout the day. I can't always be thinking about the targets and goals. Otherwise, that would be driving us a little bit mad. But it's almost finally balanced off again where I can do the things I have to do, and I can do some things that create more work, which I want to do, but also look after myself as well and put some time and attention into that. And that's really important when you're passing on the kind of messages I'm trying to, is to show people that you're setting a good example. I'll be completely honest. I've not always been the best example that I'd hope to be. I feel in many ways, when I'm not feeling good, when I'm not doing what I'm supposed to, I'll pick it out. I'll call myself out on it. And that is an example within itself. That's the realism in everything, and just showing that we all have our ups and downs, just trying to be that personable face that checks in daily. And if anybody wanted to use it, or if they weren't feeling great, it's somewhere to relate to. What I will say on that note, if anybody's not feeling great, I always encourage people to get in touch. I do reply to emails. I don't always see them because of the various platforms things come on. So please bear with me. I do get back to people. And if anybody's got anything on the mind and they don't want to say it outwardly through the questions or through the comments, I really encourage people to get in touch and let me know what's bothering them. I'm happy to be that untrained, real person that deals with these things. I've spoke over time about difficult situations I've faced and how I've dug myself out. And again, just through the questions that I get on here, some of that sort of transmits itself through. I'm sure you'll see that as we go through. So there's that email. Again, any questions you might have, anything you want to pose, get me to answer, even if it's anonymous. If you don't feel comfortable enough putting your name to it, that's absolutely fine too. I'll put anon next to it. So anything you want to email me about, always happy to start some conversation if anybody's not feeling fantastic as well. So there's always an opportunity to get involved. Like I say, if you can get involved today, give this episode a thumbs up. That'd be absolutely fantastic, just to support the channel. Or if you've liked it, or if you've taken anything from it, or like I say, if you just want to support. And of course, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. This is a slightly different format on a Thursday. Of course, as the week goes on, I use different motivations to encourage a little bit of activity, but most of all, encourage well-being and positivity and that kind of thing to help us all feel good. And then I add my own bits of activity in to try and show people that if you just get out there and do a bit, anything, something, or just do the things you love, you can be feeling a lot better for it. So yeah, just to sum up, feeling really, really good. Kind of got a little bit of a glow back to my face as well, feeling a little bit more at ease with myself. So that's good. So I knew as soon as I got some activity back in, as soon as things settled down a bit, I'd be absolutely flying. And that's where I feel I'm heading. I'm not quite there yet. It's a bit of a struggle what I am doing, but I'm getting there, and that's a great place to be. Let me know how you're feeling. Anything in the comments, anything I've said so far, please drop a comment. I'd love to hear about that. So getting into the crux of what Thursday's all about, the conversation, the discussion. Last week's throwback. Of course, what I like to do with a throwback is just sort of get a few ideas, a really simple question, no right or wrong answers, just get a few ideas of what people think to one of the questions I received. And somebody did ask me last week, what's your favourite thing about autumn? So I threw it back out to the guys. I was basically saying the way I kind of turn it all into a positive and get out when it's slightly cooler, and it's almost t-shirt running weather now, like still t-shirt, but it's cooler. It's not absolutely roasting hot, and I love that kind of thing, and the warm showers after the activity, and then sat there, wrapped up eating my tea whilst the endorphins are starting to come out, and the nights in and things like that. I spoke about various things last week. So like I said, I was just looking. The reason I do this, just to sort of reiterate, is because I want people to feel comfortable with what they do. So if there's an array of different answers, somebody might just go, oh, I do that as well, and that's fine to do it, because sometimes we worry that we might be staying in and we might be getting a bit fed up and all these things. This time of year can bring that on, but I actually like it. That's fine. And somebody might think, well, oh yeah, it is actually okay to do it. Sometimes we don't know until other people say it. That's what I'm saying. What I said right at the start about listening, I listen to so many other people, and when I am feeling good, I listen even more. So this week I've been getting back to my regular podcast, getting back to the things I listen to, to take some inspiration from, and it's about allowing yourself as well, isn't it? But anyway, the questions there. What's your favourite thing about autumn? Of course, Kay's always on. I'm definitely a safety. That wasn't the actual throwback last week, was it? The throwback question last week was. Kay actually wrote this, by the way. I'll let you into a secret. The throwback question was, are you a safety Susan or an adrenaline junkie? And Kay says, I'm definitely a safety Susan. Adrenaline activities are not for me. So all that I've just said, it is live, is absolute nonsense because I probably said all that last week. So it's we was actually talking about there's an event in London. Someone asked me about this new event where you actually climb up all the steps in the in the walkie-talkie and you abseil over to another building. And I said I was a bit of both. But Kay's response to this, along the same lines again, just getting people throwing out different ideas there, was she's a safety Susan, adrenaline activities are not for me. And again, it's fine both ways. Dawn is a safety Susan. I'm known as the bag lady when we go to Alton Towers, Blackpool Pleasure Beach and Fantasy Island. And Phil says adrenaline all the way. I'm a thrill seeker. And again, it's just showing the difference in people, isn't it? I said I kind of sit somewhere in between. Probably very cautious in most things, but when there's a challenge, when I'm set a challenge, I won't back down. Bit stubborn that way. So there she is. Look, whoops. She wrote the questions. She wrote the stuff there, so it made me look a bit silly. But there you go. It's not all bad, is it? Just reiterating the point I made last week. So yeah, all that's all the throwback. It's just a quick, short, sharp thing, just to get us thinking about the different ways people approach the same kind of thing. And that's all I'm trying to do there. There'll be another one of those at the end. Hopefully we get it right next week. The pitfalls of live YouTube, it makes you look a bit silly sometimes, but whilst it's getting me out of my comfort zone, why not get a little bit more? Anyway, moving on to the questions. Question number 1, appreciate that feedback, by the way. It's great to see you feeling more positive on DOdaily after a tricky time. Do you have a mantra to use to help you when things feel difficult? And this comes from Simon. Appreciate the question, Simon. Thanks for watching as well. Of course, you've been picking up on the things I've been saying and the fact I am feeling a lot better. I touched on a lot of the reasons why I'm feeling a lot better. My mantra is always to get back to my activity, and of course, when we're busy, I'm always encouraging it. I'm always telling people to take 20 minutes, half an hour out of the day, because it works. And I'm as guilty as anybody sometimes, when things get on top of us, we get snowed under and we forget all about it. So what I try to do is work off my daily motivations. I touched on them before. One big one I've got, and I try not to use too many because they can become a bit cliched, is never miss a Monday. Because I know if I get going on a Monday, which I did this week, I went out for a short walk to do daily and ended up doing a 5K walk. It's still not that far, but it's quite far in terms of what I was planning to do. And then all of a sudden from that, I felt like I want to keep going. I felt like I want to keep getting out there. So that's why I do never miss a Monday. Never miss a Monday is a big one for me. Like I said, try not to get too bogged down with them because some of them are just churned out for the sake of churning them out, and can get a little bit tiring. But I always find it important for me to get out. I often go out for a walk on Monday afternoon. Lucky enough to do that with the way sort of my work-life balance is. And it just gets me going for the rest of the week. Gets me talking through DOdaily, gets my episode out, and Monday motivation. And all of a sudden I'm talking about being positive, being enthusiastic. And then as the week sort of goes on, if I get my Tuesday training in and my Wednesday workout, which I've done, and then on a Thursday, I've got my DOdaily coaching session here in Nottingham, which I do with some of the guys where we look at targets and do some tough boot camp type running sessions. I'm on it, and I'm going to be waking up to walk tomorrow and trying to almost take a step back again as I look forward to some big and exciting plans at the weekend. So I guess the one I really work to is never miss a Monday, because I know when I set it off, well, I know from the past when I've not done a Monday, I might think, oh, well, I'll wait till Wednesday because, I do the running club on Wednesday. I have to do that. And then I might think, and I might be busy and things might be, so I've got the running club to do, but then I can't do my own activity. And before you know it, the week's passed you by and you've not done very much. And that's kind of where I've been this year. So again, I spoke on Monday about routines and habits and my routines and habits, not other people's, not expectations, not what other people want me to do, just my routines and habits, which I know that worked. When I started Do Daily, it was in COVID. It was at a time when people it was at a time when people was struggling to know what to do for the best. I worried like everybody else, but I quickly found habits and routines that worked for me. And it was nice to have that pressure off without the expectation. It wasn't a nice situation. I totally appreciate that. But it was great to go with that mantra of never missing a Monday, get my activity in, finding little time pockets to do it. And I'm trying to get back to that somewhat now. Of course things changed, like work-life balance has changed, jobs change, life changes, things get in the way, things upset us and things like that. But if I can stick to my daily motivations as much as anything, they get me thinking. At least they get me thinking that I need to be positive because I want to put something out for Do Daily. And even if I'm in that frame of mind where I think, oh, I'm not feeling it today. If I'm honest, tonight with the running, felt really leggy. Of course, 2 runs back after not doing very much in the last few months. It felt really, really tough, and I felt like I didn't want to do it. But I had the accountability there again of doing something and then perhaps talking about it and maintaining that positivity. And it's almost, I wouldn't say it's brainwashing myself because it's definitely not. It's what I want to do, but it's putting the ideas there. It's planting the seed. And whilst I'm encouraging others, talking to others, it's almost a subliminal message to me, a unconscious message, being passed on that if I'm encouraging people to take half an hour out their day when it's not working for me, I need to do the same. So it's just important for me to remember all those things. There was almost a message as well in an episode I did. I went to Brighton last week. It was the Tuesday training episode where I'd not done much activity, but I travelled down to Brighton and I spoke a lot about the importance of travelling alone and doing things like that and how good it can be for the soul. But I was talking there where I wasn't feeling great about going back to a point where I decided that nothing was going to stop me doing what I wanted to do. And then over 6-7 years, nothing has sort of got in the way of my mental health. And I was just starting to I was letting something creep in and bother me. And I had to nip that in the bud almost and make that not an issue. And I did that at the end of last week. Moved on from it, spoke about it on Monday, and again, all of a sudden I'm feeling better. So my mantra is almost going back to that point of remembering all those good things that have happened over the last 6 or 7 years, which have led me to a happy place. I don't want to be too wishy-washy with it, but of course, in the last few weeks, myself and Kay got married, and I met Kay at the running club, and the running club started because I was feeling better with myself, and I was running, and the running started because I needed to do something positive. So I just have to remember, and I think that's the point, isn't it? Remember what works for us. Remember how it did affect us, because sometimes we can just be a bit complacent. All of us are in life. We do something, and familiarity breeds contempt. But the 2 examples they give you there of not letting my mental health be affected by anyone, and I made that decision a long time ago when I was at my lowest point. Somehow I dug deep and did that. And then COVID, a tricky, a low point for all of us, perhaps the lowest point collectively that most of us have had in our lifetime. But again, through that adversity, finding things that work, and they're the things I try to stick to now. So hopefully that makes sense. No real big cliche things there, other than that never miss a Monday thing. But it's just about remembering what works for you. And of course, that's the encouragement every day on Do Daily. But thanks for the question. Really great Thursday thoughts type of question. Love those kind of things. Don't mind getting deep. I always say I'm happy to be honest and and say it as it is, even if it does make me feel uncomfortable. It's just a case of pressing on, and realizing the more I talk about what's happened, it's not comfortable, it's not easy when it has been something difficult, but the more I talk about it, the more I'm coming to terms with it. And that's what I try and get people to understand. Some people look in on this and think, what the hell is he talking about now? Why is he talking about that again? But the reality is it's because I can. And when you can talk about it, when you've got yourself to that point where, whether it's easy or not particularly easy, if you can bring it out you're dealing with it. I always say to anybody who's struggling, and they go, they talk to me and say, I'm really struggling, and they find the confidence to, or they find something to talk to me. And the first thing I say to them now is, you're talking to me, so you're doing something about it. When they say I don't know what to do about it, by talking, you're actually doing something about it. And I guess that's what I'm doing all the time. So I'm constantly sort of working on it, because I realise it's always there. Do you know? And it's a scale, isn't it? Do you know, mental health is not. When people say I've got poor mental health or good mental health, I don't think that's even a thing anymore. We all have mental health issues. You know, it's up and down. You know, and things affect it, and things affect us differently. But if you're constantly working at it, that's when you tend to be able to deal with it that little bit better. And that's what I'm doing. Hopefully that all makes sense. But great question, like I say, really appreciate it. If anybody's got anything to ask on the back of that, please add a comment. Anything to say about what I said there, whether you think I'm talking rubbish or not, you know, please drop that in. And of course, another reminder just to give the episode a thumbs up if you are watching. Question 2. It was a big thing this week, particularly in the running circles, in the running group I'm in Nottingham. The London Marathon ballot results come out. It's topical. Lots of people, again, unfortunately got rejected. It's a really tough one to get into. Anybody who's not of a running persuasion, I think they get about 300,000. I might be wrong on the numbers. I might be way out, but I know it's hundreds of thousands of people applied to be in London, and there's only 45, 50,000 places. So it's so hard to get into. It's really difficult. Lots of people end up disappointed because this is the bucket list event. This is the World Cup final for as amateur runners especially, but even some of the elites. You know, it's the big one. It's the showpiece event, and the one we all really want to do. Even people who run but say they're never going to do a marathon want to get involved in this one. So it's that important, and then they end up doing the training and absolutely love it. So it's been a massive thing, and like I say, lots of rejections, unfortunately. 1 or 2 people I know have got in. Really pleased for those. I spoke about it briefly on Monday. You know, it was really nice. I got rejected through the ballot, but I'm fortunate enough with Kay to have another stab at it through charity place. We've already raised £3,000 for the event that took place just a few weeks ago. Kay was able to take part. I wasn't. We was hoping to do it as a culmination of the wedding, do it as a couple, but unfortunately I wasn't in the best place to do it in terms of fitness and wellness. So I deferred my place, and thankfully they offered her another place, so she's got another go at it. So we're very lucky. I kind of appreciate that, but we do have to work for that as well. You know, we have to raise a lot of money, and I love doing that. It's good work. I'm not complaining, but there is ways to get in and ways to sort of get involved. But here the question is, what's your top tip for anyone who secured a place in the London Marathon this week? I've done it once. I've done a few marathons. I think with London especially, the big thing is just to embrace it. I don't know what happened there. I disappeared. I pressed something in it and it disappeared. The big thing is just to really sort of embrace what we're doing. Marathon training is tough, especially if you're fundraising as well. I've mentioned it a few times. It can feel like a part-time job, the training and it can feel like 2 part-time jobs and the fundraising. So it can feel really tough. You know, early mornings, late nights, getting runs in when you're sort of fitting them around, social lives, work, absolutely anything. You know, commitments. And it can be really tough. But the thing you have to do is really embrace it. Take it on board, you know, realise it could be a once in a lifetime thing. And just almost what I'd say is live your life around it a little bit, you know, rather than get fed up of the fact you've got more training to do. You know, find a reason to run. It's a term I used somewhere else tonight as well, whilst I was at the coaching. Find a reason to go and do it, not a reason not to. And I touched on the fact earlier, I'm kind of different in the sense that I got into running and wanted to encourage, and then rather than just be a participant, that's absolutely fine. But again, it's that mindset, isn't it, of finding a purpose. And London, even for those who never planned on doing it but get a place, it gives you that real purpose. So what I'd say with that is just find a reason to get out and do those runs. Remember, keep your eyes on the prize. Crossing that line at London is like no other. I've done five marathons and a virtual London marathon around Nottingham, and there's nothing like finishing it like there is at London. It's hard, it gets tough, there's points on the course, but it's also well supported and people get involved and know what you're doing. Everybody sort of encourages you because they've heard of the London Marathon. Some of the other marathons, people probably think they're not as good or not as big. They're exactly the same in many ways. Don't get me wrong. I'd always encourage people to try others. I had to do that at first. I didn't wait around for it, but it is brilliant. There's no feeling like it. It's emotional, running through the streets of such an amazing place and all those people supporting and having your friends and family there as well. So what I'd really say is just embrace it. I try not to get too bogged down with training plans. When I'm good, when I'm on it, I tend to run when I feel like it. And because I'm somebody who finds a reason to run, this is why I'm saying that. Because I'm someone who finds a reason to run, that's quite often. If you're thinking of reasons not to do it, or I might have done enough now, or I might have done this, or whatever, then you're almost sort of doing yourself down to start with, aren't you? It's about finding the reason to run. So I try not to get too bogged down in training plans. I just get up in the morning when I'm really stuck into what I'm doing and go out and do a 10-mile run, a 16-mile run. I've not been there for quite a while, so it's not easy, but that's how I'm looking to approach it. And like I say, just take it all in. I love the music. I'll play it as the marathons a few weeks before, get myself all psyched up for it. And then just on the day, it's just about just trying to take it in the best you can. There's lots going on. Believe me, there's lots of things. There's lots of distractions for you not to take it in. And of course, we all like to get a good time and things like that. But it's just about embracing it the best you can and realizing it's something you might never do again. So just this period of your life, whether it's a 6 months training plan, don't get me wrong, I'm not discouraging a training plan, but for me, like I say, when I do it, I go and do it and I know I can switch in. What I'm saying there about the training plan, if you are working to that, that's part of what you do now. Don't get fed up with it. Don't get upset with it. Just prove to yourself that you can go and do it, and that's how I tend to get through. So that'd be my advice on that. And once again, well done to everyone who got a place. It's absolutely fantastic. If you didn't, I've already said it this week. There's ways of getting around it. You can do a charity place. Creates a bit more work, but it's fulfilling as well. It's totally satisfying. Kind of become a bit of a fundraiser in the last couple of years. I've got a few things lined up, a few big events to try and raise the same amount of money again, which is going to be a big effort. But again, it's all about embracing it, isn't it? And realizing that if you put the effort in, put the hard work in, the training, the endorphins, the feel good from helping people, the finishing, what more can a runner ask for? And that's what it's all about for us. So yeah, definitely looking forward and definitely feeling better about it now. What I will say is deferring was definitely not something I thought I'd ever do. There was a point in my life where I was full steam ahead and I was probably a bit too stubborn and got a bit carried away with myself. I was doing things well, really fit as I'd ever been, but ultimately I was probably doing myself a little bit of damage now. My body's not quite what it was, as is going to happen with age, but we can work at that and make it a bit better. So just keep your eyes on the prize, keep focused, and everything will be all right. Thanks for the question. Really appreciate that. If anyone's got any tips on that question, any tips on advice for London, please pop them in. Love those kind of things. Of course, it's my big passion. Whilst we've answered the question there about my mental health in a way, and tips for London. You know, it's a great mix as well, isn't it? And that's why Thursday Thoughts is a little bit something for everyone. Question 3: will you be reading Prince Harry's tell-all book when it's released? This is from Louise. Probably won't say too much about this one because I won't. I might see things, I might hear things. I've got passing interest in it, but nothing. I see what they're up to. I'm a bit of a royalist in all reality, but that don't mean I like them all or like agree with everything that goes on. Just like anything, I like to be objective rather than hell bent on my opinions. They do change if I feel they have to. So I'm not overly fussed with Harry and Meghan and everything there. Um, do so, like I say, I pay a passing interest to the royals and very patriotic in that sense, but got no real interest in picking the book up. Don't tend to read too much in all reality. I should do. I should read more. I listen to a lot of audio books, and podcasts that whilst I'm out walking and doing my activity. Again, trying to dual purpose everything and find that little bit more time. So I get opportunities to hear things and pick things up from that, and of course through general conversations, but not that bothered, to be honest. Let me know what you think, if you're interested in it, if it's something you want to pry into and know all about. It's really, really important. It's just a comment on that London one. Dawn's tip is ask Kate to do your charity application. She's really good at doing those, so she tends to get people in because that's her skill when it comes to London, as well as running it herself and doing the training. But yeah, and then she's followed up that comment here with, I'm intrigued as to what he has to say. I think the book title Spear says a lot. Again, if you're that bothered, but each to their own. There's daft pointless things I'm interested in, but if that's what someone else is interested in, that's absolutely fine. And why I say daft and pointless, because that's the way it seems to me. It isn't to everybody. I don't know why I keep bringing that comment up, but we have all got our own little interest, you know what I mean? And that's not something that really bothers me too much. Although, I'm sure it's going to be all over the television and news, and it's going to interest a lot of people. So thanks for those questions. Really, really appreciate them after that tricky throwback start. Some great stuff there to get through. Stuff I really like delving into, particularly those first two, like I say, the London Marathon and talking about the way I'm feeling. I'm always happy enough to do that, even when I'm not feeling particularly happy. I've found some confidence through doing DOdaily, and part of the reason I do all this and get myself out of my comfort zone is to build my own confidence and get better at sort of speaking openly, and being at ease with myself, because that's what it does. It helps me feel better alone. Just when you've got something on your mind and you're worried about saying it, as soon as it's out there, you can start dealing with it. Whilst it's ticking over, whilst it's going around, there's not much you can really do, because all you're doing is probably coming up with some crazy notions and ideas about what people might think or say or do. But I said it a million times on DOdaily. Generally people are good. People will want help and listen, and that they can only do that if we make those first steps. And like I say, as soon as you make some contact with somebody, you've started trying to make yourself feel better, and that's all I did with DOdaily. That contact wasn't there, of course, through COVID. I was finding a way to carry on some of the things that had already made me feel good. I'd started the running club, I'd met people through that, and then all of a sudden that's taken away from me. That could have been me back to square one. It could have been me back at the bottom, and start struggling again and not knowing what to do. But I had this brainwave, call it what you will, to do a YouTube channel, and it's been brilliant for me. I've always said, if anybody it might have helped, it's definitely helped me. So again, that's why I do what I do on a Thursday. Just an honest, realistic, relatable, all those cliched words that have become now. Try not to be too cliched, but they kind of are for DOdaily, and I really enjoy doing what I'm doing. So if you've got anything to add to anything I've said so far, I'd love you to add some comments. There's a comment here from Eve. Des, I hope you're well. Me and my mum and dad are moving house, and I actually broke down in tears last night because I'm really sad and won't be able to go back to the house again. That is a sad situation, isn't it? But it might be a good one as well. I keep talking about getting out of comfort zones, so these little things are sense testers sometimes, and we have to be strong and get through them and be really positive about what might be good about it. I'm sure your mum and dad have moved because it might be a bigger house, it might be a nicer house, it might be somewhere you can get a lot more from it, so again, little things can upset us, but what we have to do is try and find all the positives. And again, I've said it all the way through this episode. That's all I'm trying to do all the time, is find positives, even when things feel really sad and upsetting and nostalgic, because that's the situation there, isn't it, Eve? You're feeling a bit nostalgic about what you've had and where you've been. But at the end of the day, life does move on, and we have to find a way to find all the good things that it might bring. I remember when I was a child, we moved house and we only moved to the next street, and I felt a little bit sad. But at the end of the day, it was the best thing we ever did because it was much better for us as a family as well, and it made us a lot better off in terms of everything we was doing. So look at the positives, find those. You're allowed to be sad, you're allowed to be a little bit upset, but it's okay. Is also to find the good stuff in it as well. So thanks for the comments there. Really appreciate that involvement along with everybody else. Like I say, just trying to be really, really honest here and throw some ideas out to some of the things that have been asked of me. When it comes to that throwback, hopefully we get it right next week. But do you have a favourite saying or mantra? Again, I've give you my ideas about how I do things. It's not all about me on a Thursday. Whilst I'm talking one way most of the time on a Thursday, I'm looking for you to get involved. Is there anything that you religiously stick to, which helps you keep going, keep to your routines, keep to your habits, things I'm having to dig really deep to. So things I'm having to dig really deep with to stay on top form. And whilst I am positive now, there is a bit of an underbelly there. If I'm not positive, if I'm not thinking forward, if I'm not doing my activity, I could quite easily slip back. And it's just about understanding that, isn't it? And understanding why it's so important to be positive. And again, in relation to what Eve said there, it's really important to look for the positives. I spoke in the episode about finding a reason to run, rather than a reason not to run. I want to run because I want to be fitter and healthier. If I don't run, I'm not going to be fitter and healthier. I can find a million reasons. It's raining, it's cold, it's wet. I can't be bothered. I'm tired. I'm this and that. But that's not going to get me fitter, is it? What's more important? It's raining, or I want to be fitter, and for me, it's looking at that positive. If you see what I mean there. So again, with a throwback, if you've got anything that keeps you thinking positive, staying on top form, gets you back to a good place, I'd love to hear what you got to say. Again, no wrong answers, absolutely not. Just creates a bit of interaction and gives me something to say. But I'd really, really appreciate that input. Just like all the rest. Of course, that email address again. If you've got anything to ask me about, you want to create conversation, you want to get involved, there's chances even to come on. If there's something you want me to talk about in particular, ask a question, or even come on. I can get you in on a Thursday. We tend to do it around sort of running events. I create a preview and we chat about them, but we can chat about absolutely anything. In the past, spoke about racism and the issue around women feeling safe at night. So happy to offer my opinions on those. Whilst it's not subjects I'm particularly in the know about, we can all broaden our horizons a little bit and create conversation around difficult things to talk about. So Thursday Thoughts, that's what it's all about. Get in touch. Like I say, any of that social media scrolling across the bottom, the email address, the des@dorunning.org.uk. And I'll be back tomorrow. Wake up to walk. In a week, when I've really set about my routines, got DOdaily out on time, got my activity going, it'll be folly for me not to do Wake Up to Walk. It's been a struggle. I went through 2.5 whole years of getting up on a Friday morning really, really early through all conditions. And for whatever reason, commitments, not feeling fantastic, it's been a struggle in the last few. But tomorrow is definitely going to happen. That'll sign off the week as a real plus in that sense, and it'll give me all the enthusiasm to have a good weekend. And come back next week feeling equally as good, if not even better. So it's all about positivity. Have a great evening, guys. Enjoy what you're doing. Stay positive. Join me tomorrow. It'll be sometime tomorrow evening. Of course, I'll film it in the morning, get it all put on, tell you why I'm looking forward to the weekend, why this week's been so good, reflecting on what's gone and finding little ways to make it even better. Also, explaining why it's important to get up early, get those endorphins flowing and really attack the day. So until then, guys, just doing it.